Jerry? Is that you? Mr. DePoto? Okay, everyone else, stop listening for a few seconds. This message is just for Mr. Jerry DePoto. Why did you have to make that trade legitimately 12 hours after I released the podcast? Huh? You couldn't have done it during? I couldn't have gotten a live reaction. I couldn't have had that in the podcast. Now I have to do this. I have to do an emergency podcast now. Is this what you wanted, Jerry? Well, good. You're getting it. Hey everyone. Welcome back to an emergency Chaos Ball podcast because Jerry DePoto has made another trade as the president of baseball operations for the Seattle Mariners. What has he done, you may ask? Well, I'm sure you know because it's been the biggest thing talked about in baseball today. Three-player trade. We have acquired Teoscar Hernandez from the Toronto Blue Jays in a three-player trade. We exchanged Adam Macko, who is a minor league pitcher, and Eric Swanson. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Eric Swanson. This is like so random that this happened this morning. Like I got up, I rub my eyes, I see a notification that says Seattle makes a big move, and I'm like, oh, what the hell could this mean? Pleasantly surprised to hear it was Teoscar Hernandez. Um, very interesting. Very interesting trade. There was talk a couple weeks ago about a Blue Jays Mariners trade that involved Santiago Espinal, their second baseman. So maybe the Jays and the Mariners have been in talks for trades for a little bit. It sounds like the Blue Jays are open to trading George Springer as well. It sounds like they're mortgaging some of their offense for probably pitching, I would imagine. But this is a fantastic trade. I mean, it's clear both intents of the teams here, right? The Blue Jays really, really need bullpen help. They have a surplus of offense, obviously. And the Mariners had, I mean, this leaves a little bit of a hole in their bullpen. Uh, but we had kind of a surplus of good bullpen arms. And still, even with the depleted farm system, you have a guy like Adam Macko who I haven't done my entire due diligence on watching him, but I've watched like a couple of clips of him. I've seen his stats. He's a really intriguing prospect. He's a lefty pitcher who's been in our system for a little bit. But it's very, very much an upside pick. I don't know what his outlook is at the major league level. I know the Mariners liked him, and I know they've developed him to be a pretty decent pitcher down in the minors. I know he struggled with injuries, but definitely an upside thing for sure. So that's interesting from them that they wanted a top bullpen arm and they gave up Teoscar Hernandez, and then Adam Macko is just a little bit of a throw in. Like we need a little bit more upside for this trade. Um, but Eric Swanson will be missed. Had a fantastic year. As I said, leaves a little bit of a hole in the bullpen in terms of lefties, um, like guys who can get lefty hitters out. And I talked about that yesterday in the podcast about how a lefty reliever or a righty reliever who can get lefties out is something that we desperately need, and now especially more so. So I'm thinking there will be some signage in the bullpen or more trades to address that issue. Like I said yesterday, I think the Mariners should try to trade for Andrew Chafin. There's a lot of guys out there that they are probably looking at right now, and it's not like they don't know that now this leaves a little bit of a glaring hole in their bullpen, but I'm sure they have some sort of plan in place to fill that hole. And Adam Macko will be missed as well. I was looking forward to potentially watching him pitch this year because he's a lefty, so I thought maybe they'd give him some run in spring training, see what he could do out of the bullpen for us, but guess not. But I'm super, super happy to see Teoscar Hernandez in a Mariners jersey. Um, we needed offense. They needed a bullpen. This seems like a trade that works for everyone. And I'm wondering if there's any merit to maybe the Mariners didn't completely buy Eric Swanson's year. Maybe they didn't trust him. I don't know. It was weird because he only made like one or two appearances in the playoffs last year. Uh, and I think everyone felt the same way. Like why? Why was he not pitching? Especially like in the Astros series. Like we never brought him in to face the like Kyle Tucker or Jordan Alvarez really. Um, so I don't know. Maybe there's a falling out. Maybe him and Scott had a little tiff, or him and Jerry disagreed on something. I don't know, but he's on the Blue Jays now, and I mean I wish him the best because he was good for us. He had a great year, and I think his stuff is legit. So I mean they're getting a good bullpen arm, and we're getting a very underrated hitter. I think when the Espinal trade talk stuff kind of came out, I was for that as well. There was talk of like sending Flex in and a or Marco and a prospect there for Espinal, and I would have supported that just like I support this trade because one, we need offense, and he fills a hole in a defensive spot where we need. This does the same thing. Teoscar plays right field, left field, corner outfield. He fills that hole. We still need another outfielder, in my opinion, but he's a guy who's going to slot right into the middle of the order, and he has been an underrated hitter in baseball, I think, for a little while now. Because just like Espinal, he was in the Blue Jays lineup, but in the Blue Jays lineup, you have the flashy names. You got Vlad, you got Bo Bichette, you got George Springer, but Teoscar and Espinal, Teoscar specifically, has been a really above average hitter for 3 straight years now. Um, and Fangraphs did a little thing. They wrote a little bit. Someone wrote a little bit about Teoscar Hernandez and this trade, but they ranked players with 1,000 or more plate appearances since 2020. They ranked them by their WRC plus. Aaron Judge is at the top, and then you have a lot of guys who you'd expect in the top 20 here. Brennan Nimmo, sneaky number 13. I still think the Mariners should try to sign him as well because that would be a dynamite outfield. But Teoscar's 21st with 132 WRC plus since 2020 with over 1,300 plate appearances. Guys ahead of him: Austin Riley, Jose Altuve, Kyle Tucker, Pete Alonso, Acuna, Springer, Jose Abreu, Shohei Ohtani, Trey Turner, like all the guys you'd expect. And guys below him, like tied with him: Will Smith, Rafael Devers, Brandon Lau, Corey Seager, Xander Bogaerts, Yandy Diaz, Carlos Correa. Like he he's a great hitter. I think when he hits the ball, it works. You know, like what are we gonna expect from Teoscar? He's gonna be in the middle of the lineup, and he's just a plus hitter when he hits the ball. His strikeout rate and walk rate are both a little below league average. He strikes out a tad too much for my liking, but when he hits the ball pretty hard, and he has pop. Um, Last season he had 25 home runs. Season before that, 32. And he's had a WRC plus over 100 since 2017. And he's an Astros prospect. Like he was in their system before going to the Blue Jays, so I kind of trust their development a little bit. And he's just really blossomed into a really good hitter with the Blue Jays, and so this is great. This is a great trade for us. He's going to boost our offense immediately and fill a right field spot, which looks like they don't have the intention to re-sign Mitch Haniger. They didn't tender a qualifying offer to him, and it just doesn't look like. And with this trade, it basically confirms I don't think they're going to bring him back. And I think that the Mariners just think his offensive peak is behind him. And as much as that hurts from a fan perspective, I understand it. Maybe they'll try to bring him back on a really team-friendly deal, but if he can get paid more than the Mariners are offering him somewhere else, go for it. Like, He now our everyday right fielder is Teoscar Hernandez, and he can play left. He's been playing right field for the Blue Jays, but in his career he's played all outfield positions. But I want to stick him definitely not in center field. He's not an amazing defender. He's I want to say slightly below average to average. Like he's fine. I think he's pretty fast, which helps. But his big allure is his bat, and his bat is really good. So that's going to boost our offense immediately. And then another interesting thing, just before I get out of here, is he's a free agent after next season. So is this a rental, or is this a we want to try to re-sign him because he's 30? Next year will be his 30-year-old season because he just turned 30 last month. He's a free agent after next season, eligible to get paid for the first time. Um, I'm wondering what they do here. I'm wondering if this is just a rental, and maybe it depends on how he plays. If he doesn't play and doesn't hit as much as they'd like him to, or they just aren't liking him, or he's not a good fit, maybe they don't re-sign him. Maybe he comes out hitting like he usually does, and he's one of the best hitters in our lineup behind Julio, probably. Um, and he lights the world on fire. The team loves him, the fans love him, and maybe they give him a contract. But we'll see. This might just be a rental. But the knee-jerk reaction for me is this means Mitch Haniger is probably not going to be brought back. This might just be a rental, but he's going to boost our offense tremendously. He's going to He steps into our team right now as the second best hitter on the team behind Julio, in my opinion. But I think this is the first of many moves that the Mariners will make this offseason, whether that is free agent signings or more trades. Obviously, with Jerry Dipoto, he could make another trade right after I release this pod just to spite me again because he's an active man. But that's just a little bit of my knee-jerk reaction going forward and the outlook of this trade. I really like it. I really like it. Hopefully, it's the first of many good moves that I like in this offseason. Jerry Dipoto is definitely not done. It sounds like he's probably going to trade one of or both of Flexen and Marco, maybe Winker. I don't know. We'll see. But this is exciting stuff. This is exciting stuff because Teoscar's a great player. And he's pretty cool, honestly. So he's going to fit with this team. I think the vibes fit really well. And I hope he plays like himself and we can maybe extend him to a deal. Like, I don't know what he would be eligible to get paid. It probably depends on like what Brandon Nimmo and like Benintendi and Judge all go for collectively in the offseason to kind of see what the market is for a outfielder. I haven't looked at what the free agent outfield is like for next year. Obviously, it's kind of the market and teams decide what these dudes are worth. But he's 30. I would assume he'd sign a 5-year deal probably. Hopefully, he'd want a 5-year deal. But maybe we can get him a 5-year deal, player option, team option after the third or fourth year. I don't know, 20 million a year, something like that. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But this is a good trade. We should be excited about it. He helps the offense. He's a great hitter, and he's just going to be really fun to watch in the lineup. So that is my immediate thoughts. But this has been an emergency podcast because Jerry decided to listen to my show yesterday, and then he's like, "Oh, okay, this has inspired me to make a forward move in the off season." Jerry, please, I know you're listening. Please sign a shortstop. And with that, I'll see y'all later. Have a good rest of your week.